With Catherine beside him, our new Prince and Princess of Wales will, I know, he succeeds me as Duke of Cornwall and takes on the responsibilities for the duchy.
Behind the heavy, gold-trimmed doors of a restricted chamber in Buckingham Palace, a moment occurred that will forever change the face of the British monarchy. This wasn't just another royal meeting. This was a moment so sensitive, so shrouded in secrecy, that senior courtiers, people who have served the crown for decades, were ordered to surrender their mobile phones and sign non-disclosure agreements before witnessing King Charles place his signature on a document that effectively moves the crown one step closer to Prince William. There were no trumpets, no cheering crowds, and no televised announcements. Instead, there was a heavy, suffocating silence, broken only by the scratching of a fountain pen on parchment. But what is inside this document that has left the palace in a state of absolute chaos? Why is the term Royal Continuity Declaration causing such panic behind the scenes? And most importantly, why was Prince William's reaction one of cold, hard anger rather than gratitude? Stay with us for the next 15 minutes, because we are about to take you inside the locked rooms of Windsor and reveal the terrifying 11-minute security failure that forced the king's hand. This is the story the palace desperately tried to bury, and it begins with a signature that signifies the beginning of the end of an era. To understand why King Charles felt compelled to sign this secret declaration, we have to go back to a rainy afternoon at Westminster Abbey during the Commonwealth service. To the public eye, everything looked perfect. The royal family stood united, the music was sublime, and the protocol was followed to the letter. But behind the scenes, the monarchy was one heartbeat away from a total collapse of authority. For exactly 11 minutes, a high-level constitutional crisis unfolded. King Charles was temporarily unavailable due to a sudden private matter, and an urgent state communication arrived, a message involving national security that required an immediate sovereign response. Prince William was standing right there, ready and capable. But here is the brutal reality of the British Constitution. He was legally forbidden to act. He was the heir, the future king. Yet, in that moment, the system treated him as a total stranger to the throne. He couldn't read the message, he couldn't give an order, and he couldn't lead. Palace insiders described those 11 minutes as pure panic. It exposed a terrifying weakness. The monarchy was dependent on a single man, and if that man was compromised, the entire machinery of the British state would grind to a halt. Princess Anne, the king's sister and the most hard-working royal, watched this chaos unfold with a cold, calculating eye. She realized that affection for her brother was becoming a danger to the stability of the crown. It was Anne who reportedly approached the king that evening, not as a sister, but as the architect of royal survival, telling him point-blank, "We cannot allow this to happen again. William must be ready, and he must be ready now." The result of that confrontation was the Royal Continuity Declaration. Now let's be clear, this is not an abdication. But for all intents and purposes, it is the closest thing to it that we have seen in modern history. The document officially grants William access to what is known as sovereign material. These are top-secret government briefings, high-level intelligence reports from MI5 and MI6, and constitutional papers that are normally reserved strictly for the reigning monarch. Effectively, Charles has created a situation where there are two kings under one roof. But there is a darker side to this document, something hidden in the secret annexes that the palace hasn't even whispered to the mainstream media. These annexes detail the exact conditions under which Prince William can take expanded sovereign authority. This means that in the event of the king's continued health struggles, William can chair the Privy Council and lead the opening of Parliament without Charles needing to formally step down. Critics are already calling this a soft abdication, a way for the king to keep the title while passing the crushing weight of the crown to his son. But why was this kept secret? Why didn't the king tell William he was doing this? The answer lies in the king's own fear. Charles has spent 70 years preparing for this role. To sign a document that delegates his power is to admit his own vulnerability. It is a father's ultimate sacrifice, but it was done with a lack of transparency that would soon backfire in the most dramatic way possible. Imagine being Prince William. You are at Windsor with Catherine and the children, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy amidst the storm. Suddenly, a discreet, high-priority message arrives. No explanation, just an order to meet the king immediately. Insiders say William's face went pale. He knew that in the royal family, unplanned meetings with the sovereign usually mean only one thing: tragedy. He turned to Catherine and said quietly, "Something has happened." He rushed to the king's private sitting room, expecting the worst. But what he found was perhaps even more shocking. His father was standing by the fireplace, holding a folder. When Charles explained that he had signed the declaration, William didn't hug him. He didn't thank him. Instead, a cold, hard anger took over. William demanded to know why he had been excluded from the process. Why had his father and his Aunt Anne negotiated his future behind his back? In that locked room, with no advisors to soften the blow, the Prince of Wales reportedly placed the document on the table and asked his father a question that shook the room. "Did you sign this because the institution needs me, or because you believe you can no longer continue?" Let that sink in for a moment. That is not the question of an heir. That is the question of a son who is terrified of losing his father. William realized that every page of that document was a rehearsal for his father's death. He wasn't just receiving power, he was receiving a countdown. The machinery of monarchy was forcing them to negotiate the terms of their own separation while they were both still in the room. While the two men struggled with the emotional fallout, the palace began to change overnight. If you were in fly on the wall in Buckingham Palace right now, you would see staff loyalties shifting in real time. Senior officials who used to wait for the king's schedule are now quietly adjusting their routes to meet William first. For the first time in history, the famous red boxes, those secure cases containing the daily work of the government, are being delivered to William's desk in their entirety, not just the summaries. This is a massive administrative shift. Princess Anne remains the iron will behind this transition. She has been seen overseeing William as he chairs emergency continuity meetings, ensuring that he is not just learning, but leading. Even Queen Camilla has felt the shift. Reports suggest she walked into a briefing recently and found an identical classified folder in front of William, a visual confirmation that the old balance of power, where Charles was the sole authority, has vanished. Camilla is fiercely protective of the king's reign, and seeing the future king sitting in the seat of power while the king is still present has created an icy atmosphere in the private apartments. Catherine, however, has become the anchor. She is the one reminding William that this isn't an insult from his father, but an act of profound protection. She is the one bridge between the king's desire to secure the future and William's fear of the loss that future requires. But secrets this big cannot stay hidden forever in the age of digital leaks and global scrutiny. As fragments of the Royal Continuity Declaration began to leak to the British public, the shock was palpable. The UK was stunned. People began asking, is the king's health worse than we are being told? Is this a sign that the transition to King William is happening sooner than anyone expected? The palace has tried to frame this as modernization, but the public sees it for what it is: a silent rehearsal for a new reign. When Charles and William finally appeared together recently, the world watched every gesture, every adjusted insignia, every hand on a shoulder, every shared glance was analyzed. What we are witnessing is the birth of King William's reign, happening in the shadows of his father's courage. King Charles's signature was the ultimate act of trust. He chose the future of his country over his own grip on power. He chose to ensure that when the day comes, the day no one wants to name the monarchy will not be caught in an 11-minute failure. It will be prepared, united, and unbroken. The legacy of the House of Windsor is being rewritten as we speak, not by a public vote, but by a secret pen in a locked room. The story of this secret declaration is only just beginning. As William steps out of the shadow and into the light of the crown, the questions remain. Can the family survive this shift in power? And what other secrets are hidden in those annexes? We want to hear from you. Do you believe King Charles is doing the right thing by preparing William in total secrecy? Or should the public have been told the truth from the start? Is this an act of strength or a sign of a deeper crisis? Scroll down and comment, King William, if you stand with the future of the monarchy. or let us know if you think the palace is hiding a truth we aren't ready to hear. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Crown Lens Reporter, and turn on notifications. We are tracking every invisible movement of power inside the palace, and you won't want to miss our next update. Thank you for watching, and remember, the crown never sleeps.